Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Inspiration, motivation takes. Listen to the podcast. We're all about to talk about life. Our guests will share their life story. We want you to success in life and business. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk about life. We're going to speak on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are going to witness business with a servant's heart. With hosts Steve, Ramona, and Ray. Inspiration, education talks. Listen to the podcast. Steve, Ramona.
Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramona. I am so thrilled to have you join us today. We've exploring and dedicated the idea of a servant's heart in your life and in your work to make an impact and a difference in your world. Imagine doing that every day. I get blessed to have the opportunity to do that every day, and so do you. We also are bringing guests on who are going to motivate you, inspire you, and educate you. Maybe it's a servant's heart, maybe it's business, but they're going to give you something when you walk away. And it's not for everybody. Me and the guests were talking about that earlier before the show, but that's not important. 2 or 3 people get affected by this show, we're going to be very happy. Here's your homework today, too, audience. I want you to think about how you're going to serve yourself and others today, and what impact you create today. My goal in 2025 is 1 million people see Doing Business with a Servant's Heart, whether through me or through other people. You can start doing that right after this show. Just go serve. I guarantee you it's going to make your day, and it does every day. With that being said, I want to thank my sponsor, Pantheon Alliance. Join a community of high-income entrepreneurs and business leaders to create this world-changing thought leader platform to help grow your business, but partner up and help make an impact and change in the world. For more information on Pantheon, just reach out to me and I'll get you all the information. So the whole monologue is about impact and difference. Well, we're going to do that with e-commerce, and my guest today is helping veterans as well. So I'm super excited to have him on. Let's bring him on. Neil, welcome to the show.
Hey, Steve. Thanks for having me, sir.
I've always wanted to ask, I've seen your name a few times. How do you say your last name?
How do you think? I always like to ask in reverse. How do you think you would say it?
I'm glad you asked. I'm not afraid. Twa.
You nailed it. Yeah. Some people think it's a Twa, or they hold the A too long and it sounds more like Twa, like it's Japanese or something, but no, it is not.
What's the background with that name?
Yeah. So if you go like to the great grandpa on my dad's side, who came up through French Quebec, Canada, was a fur trader that came across from the Hudson Bay Fur Trading Company out of Normandy, France, which was settled by the Vikings. So hence the blue eyes, blonde hair, and 6'5" stature gets me my Viking background from my dad's side, which was Le Twa at one point, the Letroeys, Le Twa. And they somehow got to TWA, which don't even get me started on the finish of that one. There's this video series this guy does. He teaches people at the whiteboard how to do words. Have you seen that? It's hilarious.
No.
With the bowl. And the guy's like, how do you say this? It's like bowl. And then he takes the B off. He's like, how do you say that? Owl. He's like, no, it's owl. And he's like, he goes through these things and it makes you feel stupid because the American language is so ridiculous.
Yeah, it is crazy. Are you Canadian?
No.
Oh, okay, you're married. Okay, so you understand the English language is a mess, but we're not. That's not what we're here today.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about that thing that happened in Canada yesterday.
Oh yeah, crazy. You know, the word you use sticking out to me, we talked before the show, is speak biz. It just resonated with me. Talk about that. What you do with that with your partners.
Well, I think everybody in the marketing world tries to dummy down language in some way, shape, or form to make things more what I call hopium. The hopium speak of online marketing and mindset, which is, feels sort of scammy. There's no real like and trust to it. And with building a relationship and stuff, I just prefer to speak to people in the language of business if we're talking about business, and not dummy down the terminology or the phrase or the context or the meaning of it. And instead ask them to challenge and level up their words and their meaning and understanding and structure so they learn how to do something or gain some knowledge they've never had. So when I speak business, I typically try to keep away from acronyms or definitions of it, but I really speak what is practicality in business: time, energy, attention, and money, which are the 4 factors of a team relationship. With anything you do, anyone you do it with, and anything you're going to try or succeed or even gain some benefit from in the end, it's going to formulate itself around one of those 4 things.
An additional thing, audience, servants' heart don't have hopium.
No, they don't have hopium because they're pragmatic. right?
Exactly.
They're
Yeah.
more realists than anything else, which I am, and to a fault to some degree. Which can also lead me to be careful with any ideas of hope and ideas that myself can need coping mechanisms to deal with the failures and roller coaster ride of 17 years in business. You have those highs and you have those lows, and a lot of times you don't recognize where your coping mechanisms might be pushed, and to push those coping mechanisms is just to continue to solve problems in business and to take your wins when you can, and when you take it on the chin, you just keep going. And you realize that most things take time, and the good things do take time to get to, and that is really what we should strive for, is the good things, shouldn't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that leads to my question. You mentioned before the show, you lost millions, you made millions.
Oh yeah.
People out there that have lost, and I've lost, everybody loses if they're in business, especially for themselves. How'd you get past that? How, when you lost that millions and came back and became successful again?
If you haven't failed to at a big level in business, or you haven't been sued more than once, are you really trying in business? At the end of the day, have you really tried? Because have you done not enough, or tried enough, or innovated enough, or just did it hard enough, you're going to piss somebody off, or you're going to do something wrong. It's just the nature of the game. If you're not trying hard enough, it won't happen. That story was basically me becoming aware of my limitations in business, and then having to level that up, educate myself, change the way that I thought about it, restructure my network, and move to a different direction. Because I learned a major lesson, and all failures should come with a learning curve, or you're never going to get anything from it. And this learning curve was, where is my boundary, and how far I trust a relationship when I'm walking through a process, and how big I get an idea in my head, and then bring it down to a practical execution level of what I call the 3-foot rule now. And it's a definition that was pulled out of my failure, which was I went in 6 feet deep before I realized what I was doing. And in actuality, if I'd stopped 3 foot short, I never would have went the next 3 foot. So I literally was too far into the idea, too caught up in the emotional cycle of change, that, big idea. And actually, when it had patents on it and it had all this market hope, and we were talking to large companies, it was $1 billion idea that was failed by short-sighted minds and people that controlled money and finances, that literally got us into trouble with those finances. And the business itself got over leveraged and over promised and was not paying out. And I pushed money into it and went too far in, and got some friends and family in it, and they went too far in as well. And in the end, when the business collapsed and I had to indemnify myself and hire a lawyer and have a business bankruptcy to strategically remove myself from the things I did not do, but the business owners and my partners had done, to legally move myself away from something I didn't do. That was a big, nasty move. And it came with some really hard personal choices too. Stuff that my family had to be impacted by, stuff my wife, and I had talked at a high level, but when she was pregnant with our 4th child, and we went through this process, and they're repoing the car out of the garage at 10 p.m. at night, reality smacks you right upside the head, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And I'm glad you said that, because people realize, audience, there's always a bridge between life and work.
Oh yeah.
You can't separate those two. And I'm glad you mentioned
No,
that.
not really.
You've dealt it. Yeah.
Not when you do business with your family and purpose and value.
Yeah. And that's exactly getting family business. We won't get into that, but
my wife is my family business. So that's part of it.
There you go.
When you're involved. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great point. Mm-hmm. So you were a senior role at IBM, and then you got into business. What inspired you to do that?
So to get to the IBM, or to get into my own business?
So to get your own bit from IBM to your own business.
Yeah. Well, I'd always wanted to be in my own business, but here's what happened: is the internet came online, and I went to college because I, failed out of the military because I couldn't fit in the cockpit, as I was explaining in our pre-show call. And they failed me out of the process, and I'm like fighter pilot or nothing. So I had done nothing to get, college in mind, scholarships or anything, until the last semester of my senior year, when I had gone through the process of applying to the Air Force and was rejected. Turns out you can be able to put the cockpit down, or you can't fly the plane. So imagine that. So I had a fallback plan, which was go to college, and I fumbled over scholarships and a writing thing, and got some work study. Ended up getting almost a full ride music and work study scholarship to a little liberal arts college in Iowa. So I took the opportunity because it was kind of far away from home. It was adventurous. I'd grown up in Oregon and never really had a chance to move anywhere yet. So by the time I was 18, I'm out the door to Iowa, which started a crazy adventure of life. And ended up in a cornfield with no purpose and drive, no reason to be there except playing music. And I was just going to end up living in a van down by the river, which is super cool today. Wasn't cool back then, because that's total failure. And so realized by the 3rd year, after I failed out twice and reapplied because I didn't know what to do after that, so I just reapplied to get back in, because why not? Then the internet came online, and I said, oh my gosh, the internet's coming. Like, what is this? What is this thing? We've gone from green screens to these little terminals to now they're ordering computers to we're setting up a whole computer lab. This is brand new. I'm sort of dating myself, but this has gone really fast in these last little bit of years. I'm going to be 49 this month, but that was, this is 25 years in the making. It's just speed in which the time and technology have implemented is just incredible. It makes you feel older than you actually are. And at that rate, I was seeing the opportunities and just realized there was no training. There was no mentoring. We were putting reading the manuals and putting the computers together and operating them and putting them to, this is all brand new, networking and figuring out how to do that. Nobody knew how to do that. And not even the guys who brought them in from like Microsoft and stuff and Dell, and they didn't really know what the heck they were doing either because it was all so new. So I said, okay, well, where is the money being made? And I went to a computer science degree. I actually jumped into Missouri, MSU at the Missouri level here. And where's that place called out there where the Air Force Base is? I've lost it. It'll come to me in a second. But I went to a semester there and got into C+ and COBOL and training and programming. And it was like, not really what I want to do, not my thing. But I met a guy who was an adjunct professor. He worked for Sprint long distance in Kansas City. He was a contractor. He's making like $60 an hour. I'm like, I want to do what you're doing. He's like, well, then you can't do it here at school. He's like, you need to go get a job. You need to learn. So I did. I jumped out and I started to learn to program myself. I started to teach myself it in the evenings and I do it during the day. And I was quickly figuring out it's who you know that gets you there and it's what you know that keeps you there. So I rode that wave until I got into a new startup in '99 called Sprint PCS, which was the first mobile launch of the first mobile phone. And I got in at the early stages of that. Contractor inside, got to apply, was one of the first 5,000 people badged into that new division. They deployed all this capital and money from all these locations. And by the time I left, IBM had hired me away when there was 80,000 employees and 25,000 workers. It is just a hyper growth situation in 5 years. I got an IBM, spent the better part of my IBM career jumping around from high tech, oil and gas, mobile, and others in the information and technology space, specifically around knowledge management, language and learning systems and artificial intelligence and machine language learning and all this stuff, and got to do these really cool large level projects, worked on the Watson computer with the RMonk guys up there who do all the patents, and just had an amazing time being me, even though I had, anxiety issues at times because I didn't have double docs and I wasn't a Yale graduate. And that was everybody I was running with. But I just continued to remind myself it's who you know that gets you there and what you know that keeps you there. By the time 2007 came along, I was like, I'm ready to do this. I had a mentor who's, we talked a little about my dad. He was a 2-tour Vietnam vet, but he was the hard working, suck it up, buttercup. We fix our own cars. We change our own oil. We do our own tires. We do our own work. And that was an amazing work ethic, right? But nothing about finance and business. My uncle, on the other hand, was about finance and business. He was about entrepreneurialism. He started a boat company. He became, as I would learn later, the definition of my rich dad, if you will, who mentored me through the idea of getting into business for myself as I was going up the corporate ladder and talk about franchises and other things I could do. And I just couldn't wrap my mind around all that. It just didn't fit. But he died in an ultra light aircraft accident in 2005. And I realized after 2 years of reconciling that, kind of being on my own, lost to like, what do I actually do? I just needed to risk something and do something. I just needed to get it done. I couldn't wait any longer. We all are waiting for that, final day, and we have this time in mind and we understand it. We're going to live to be 85. So we always have this time to put things off. But I've always been kind of an old soul. So by the time I was like 27, 28, I'm like, hey, that's half my life. That could be half my life. What am I risking all this for? Right? 35 is half a life. 76 is what we're sort of maybe going to get according to all average statistics. So what am I waiting for? Like, what am I doing? I got to get going. And so I jumped, and IBM literally said, hey, you can take early retirement. I'm like, cool. So I left in 2007 under early retirement. I burned the boats, left the man, fired the man, and left, and never looked back. Didn't burn any bridges because I actually turned them back into a contracting relationship and a management consulting. I had 10 management consultings working for them under consultation in a subcontract years later for both public and private sector on different projects. So yeah, that kind of launched my business career, if you will. And that was a long-winded answer to your question.
And it was, but it was very good because a couple of things. One, you didn't burn any bridges. That's who you know.
Yep.
Who you know is how you treat them. That kind of goes together. You didn't 100%. Say it, but if you don't get that, it's who you know and how you treat them.
100%.
It's huge.
Well, it comes back to who you're serving, right? If you're self-serving, it will fail ultimately. That's why I inverted eventually in the realization I was chasing profits and ideas and big dreams without looking at the practical time and nature and money involvement of that. And so I had profits inverted over purpose and value. So now my equation has turned into purpose plus value equals profits. And it's called the 5 F's in my language. That's faith, family, friends, finances, and freedom. So faith, family, friends, finances, and freedom. If you cannot have those things, what do you have in life?
Say that one more time. That's powerful.
So purpose and value equal profits. Profits, everyone immediately hears as financial, but you need to think about profits in life, not just financial. So the top one for me was faith, right? Faith to get out there and do this anyways and keep going on faith, no matter what, taking risks and rewards and the struggles and taking it on the chin when it didn't go well and taking responsibility for it. The friends that are there, the family that are there actually to help and support you through any process, positive or negative. The friends that might act more like family when the family's not treating you like family, who could be there to support you and lift you up. And then, of course, the finances are very necessary to make sure that anything runs and there's a going concern and you have profit to pay yourself and others and make it go. And that gives you the base of freedom, which is the fundamental of all of those things. The freedom to choose, the freedom to do, the freedom to think, the freedom to act, talk, to speak, and do whatever you want. The 5 Fs.
Podcasts are great because audience, you can rewind that and write that down. That's huge because you're right. Profit. I call it people asset investment business. You can invest in your assets, and those are people. And you much better than I just did. You really explain that, which is powerful. E-commerce and veterans. Yeah. First, let's jump in e-commerce. Why that industry?
I bounced into it after realizing that through time and money and trading time for money, that's what I continue to do, even in the staffing side of the management consulting world. So my mentor finally kicked it into my head. He's like, sales fixes everything. If you're not writing the sales channel, building the profits and mechanisms, owning the operation and owning the product outcome, you don't have a business. You have an affiliation, you got a joint venture, you got some strategic, which is cool. And if that's what you want, go for it. But it's not really a business yet until you have the entire thing under control. So as I was building and growing and then learning online marketing for lead generation and realizing I was just kind of affiliating the product base, but not controlling it, that's when I started to investigate the physical product world, not just the digital component of affiliate lead generation and management consulting. With that, I'm like, well, what do I sell? What the heck do I sell? And that became a whole process of trying to uncover what physical product brand and what I should do, what numbers I should look at, how this whole thing even reconciles. I was good at the marketing, good at the business, just didn't understand the physical products yet. So I met a gentleman who had a good grasp on that concept, and we started learning together. Met him in 2012 because he was kind of on a different trajectory in life and kind of had been freed up from all the things he was doing in the finance space and the fintech in that time. And real estate and mortgages and other stuff. And he's like freed up to do what he wants. And he's like, well, what do I want to do? And I want to learn about e-commerce. And we had a mutual friend, again, who, put us together. And in 1 hour, we said, hey, I think we could figure this out in business. That was 12 years later. This is 12 years ago. So we're still together. And with that, I understand now how we think differently in the operations, tactical level and finance that he's in. I'm in the business and development, brand and marketing. And together we make one brain. And we just kept pushing through product ideas and testing them, first just flipping products for profit, right? Which isn't hard to do to get to 100,000 in sales, really, at the end of the day. It's keeping it profitable that's more difficult. But we realized that as businessmen, we needed systems and processes to take it into multiple figures, multiple 7 figures, and into obviously a going concern that didn't take up 90 hours a week as the only operators in the business. And that's when we landed on private label. So we started private labeling products that we could control the outcome, manufacturing, intellectual property, the supply chain, the marketing. We could control the whole asset. And with that, by 2015, we had our first 7-figure brand. And once we hit our first 7-figure brand, it was like an avalanche from that point forward. And we were going so fast and furious that people were like, what are you doing? We want a part of that. And they started asking questions about how we did it. And when we started training people too much on their time, we started having to go for the dime because, well, I needed people to stop coming at me constantly and start putting up paywalls in order to slow it down so we could keep focusing on our brands too. And we've grown up a good group of people. We pulled out of the training aspect in 2016. We got back in 2019 into the investment world, which kind of led us to where we are now as we wanted to build up more operations through acquisition, which is one of the strategies we were deploying.
It's powerful. And audience, e-commerce, he's right. If you need a little extra money, it's easy to do. Well, I shouldn't say it's easy. It can be done. Yeah, just need products. And yeah. And he actually's proved it. Listen to his story. It's fantastic.
And products was how I got started.
Yeah. And I love that you private labeled them because I did a little e-commerce. I never private labeled, but I love an audience. The thing that you said, Neil, was very important. Affiliate to business ownership.
Yes.
Those are two different
quadrants, if you will.
Exactly. Either one's right. He's not saying it. I'm not saying you can do either one, but they're different animals.
No, they're risk to reward ratios. And what I understood from having high levels of risk already, that my risk to reward ratio is very different than other people's. So some people's in analogizing this, some people's 500 is another guy's 5,000, is another guy's 50, is another 500, is another 5 million, is another 50 million. It just literally is economies of scale and money based on the experience and network and business you have. It doesn't make one right or wrong. It just makes it different. And when you start to realize where your risk to reward ratio is, you either have to decide, do the benefits outweigh the cost? And therefore, am I willing to take the risk? Because each time you do that, you level up to a new plateau. And every time you go to another plateau, you may say, I want to be here for the rest of my life. Or you may say, hey, I haven't met that next one. I'm willing to risk some more to level up to the next plateau. And I'm just a guy who doesn't learn without hard knocks and trying things and figuring it out on the way down. So I jump off bridges without a parachute and figure it out on the way down. What I've learned to do is put people around me who jump with me now and also have parachutes and materials and goods and help build on the way down. I challenge them to go one direction. They challenge me to pull back a little bit. It's a good relationship. But yeah, at the end of the day, flipping products for growth, scalability, minimizing economies of scale, and creating a saleable asset, a business, a going concern that has profit, has upside potential, has intrinsic value that someone else might want to acquire. You have to go private label at the end of the day.
So aligned we are, because that's why I tell people all the time, if you had 150,000 a year salary, I'll support you, but it's a whole different animal if you want to do 150 million.
Correct.
And I love that you said
it's
that.
all about
Thank
risk
you.
and reward ratio.
He's a servant's heart, and this is why I love him having on the show, because he'll work with anybody. You know, you got different levels of work. You do more with the 150 million person, but still, you're agnostic to that. You're anybody.
I'm looking for the right aptitude, which is why we have a disc profile we go through. And I don't have a sales team, because this isn't about volume of sales. This is about individual intent and their goals and building that servant leadership, the 5 F's, into the framework of what we do. So my operators extol that value and become part of that engine. That's an engine that serves both of us for a triple win, if you will. Their win in learning how to build a business, grow a business, deploy capital correctly. Ours by teaching them and growing them up and finding out how great they are as operators. And then the double win is they build a saleable asset that becomes something that can be purchased by us, which is my BHAG, my big, hairy, audacious goal, to get them in 4 or 5 years to a concern that can be acquired and then off market under what's called a first right of refusal. They do a gentleman's agreement with us, if you will, to allow us to see the company first, go through its financials, and determine acquisition. And we do that with a company called Patriot Growth Capital, which is a veteran-backed, veteran-funded initiative. You should check that out if you're a veteran. They served 16,000 veterans last year in the area of support, family, growth, activities, increasing their opportunities to expand their mind, expand their training, helping with their families. It's about investing in the team and the player side. And then we're moving them into positions where we're going to train them into the companies we're acquiring, giving them an opportunity to become an operator in one of the businesses we acquire, and then even become a CEO or possibly even own the company after 5 years.
I love your model because you give the option to the owner.
Correct. We can put them in different positions.
Yeah.
Yep. Not everybody has the aptitude to be CEO operator. Sometimes they have operator status aptitude. Some people are like, hey, they're bound to become a CEO. They just need the time to learn and mentor and grow. And by the time we get 4 or 5 years out, we're actually building a bit of a war chest into the back end of the profits. That's going to be used to help them acquire the business after 5 years. So there's no tax and capital gains tax by the way we structure it, so that they can actually take that as the down payment and acquire the business out of us and out of the portfolio and have a full going concern that we originally required, trading them on, and then they got to buy it in the end and continue to run it.
This is a high level servant heart business, meaning money. I mean, you're talking millions of dollars these people could make when they sell this. And that's powerful.
The businesses are 3 to 15 million in revenue.
There you go. I love what you do. We're coming to the end here. This is so great what you're doing. You meet somebody for the first time, you never know. Now I know, and this is so great. Shout out to your partner, Reed Larson, too. Takes 2 to tango sometimes, takes
Absolutely.
3, takes 4. And
couldn't do without him.
You, Reed.
Not by myself. Yeah. I'm not an island into myself, that's for sure.
That's right. That's a true partner. Well, let's end with this great question. It's a fun question. So I've got a reservation in a restaurant. You have a table of 4. You're obviously going to sit in one of the chairs. Who would you invite the other 3 empty chairs, dead or alive? Why would you invite them? And what food would you order?
Well, technically it'd be 6 because my daughters would have to be there, and I have 4 daughters.
Let's make it 6. Your table.
So it's got all that. They all got to come. We all do life together. We travel together. We homeschool together. We just do life every day together as a part of our business journey, teaching them how to do their own businesses as well. So at the end of the day, the other 1 or 2 seats, let's say.
Let's 2 more.
2 more. That's a good question. I was trying to work my way to the answer by talking it out. Who would I want to speak to you? I think for the value of the group, it would be very cool to see. Boy, this is a tough one because I don't really have a business answer. I don't
It
idolize.
doesn't have to be a business answer. It could be.
Yeah,
personal
like I
or
don't have any
family.
business people I idolize, so I wouldn't really
No.
go that direction. Who would I put at the table? Man, how about Paul from the Bible? We would learn a lot from him
Apostle
about walking
Paul.
out on water, walking on faith, and learning how to do that with an opportunity like any kind of business in front of you, just walking on faith at the end of the day. Who else would we do? How about shoot. Boy, this. I don't know why this is stumping me. This is tough.
It usually is. So you're not alone. That's okay.
Racing through a million different names and ideas. Who would everybody enjoy speaking with? I definitely would say. Okay, we watch a lot. Probably Michael Landon. The girls love Little House on the Prairie, and he was such a great storyteller. And he had such a heart of leadership in that. And while he had his own struggles in life, if you know about his documentary and his personal family life, he tried to extol the benefits of family and character and integrity and friendship and community and all that stuff. And I really wonder what his character actually was like.
I'd love for Michael and Apostle Paul to talk to each other. I'd love to hear that conversation.
Yeah, right. Well, they've had that. I'm assuming they're having that conversation. They've been having it for a while.
Amen. There you go. Yeah, they are.
Well, you don't know. I guess that's the best I can do at this moment. I don't have any fast answers.
That's good.
That.
That's really good.
Yeah.
What will we be eating at the table?
Oh shoot! Well, since we are, we jokingly say we're on the no food diet. We have sensitivities and issues, gluten and intolerances and all kinds of stuff, and we've had them for a long time before anybody even understood what it was. So we've moved and we eat holistically and we grow chickens and we have beef from the cow that's off the hoof, so we can have very clean meat. And we moved to a country where there's well water that's pure, and make sure. So it would be a very good cooked meal. That's very clean and organic, and the girls love steak, so I'd say probably steak. And my oldest really loves potatoes, so something like a baked potato and mashed potatoes and greens, and maybe some apple pie or something for dessert after. They love. My wife's been on this gluten-free bread kick lately, and she's such a master chef. I built her kitchen last year with the giant 6-burner huge stove and open area so she can cook because she's in there every day. And lately it's been about what's the best version of the gluten-free natural bread that you can eat, and she's pumping out these loaves, which are just amazing.
Look at that.
Natural, gluten-free.
You can make a lot of money and turn your wife into your personal chef.
Right. Well, she is the personal chef.
Yeah,
she's a servant. But talk about a servant leader, boy. That's a whole nother episode for that one. I mean, the heart of a servant leader is a mom and a wife who wants to stay at home and put their family first in this world. That's a heart of a servant leader, no doubt.
Yeah, and that's a business. Being a mom and a dad, it's a business.
It runs the business of our home. I can't do what I do without her. And
amen. That's great.
Yep.
Thank you for a great show. You're such a blessing. You really helping veterans, which is so powerful. People listening want to reach out and connect with you. How can they do that?
Sure. Last name really is Twa, so you can Google me. Won't be hard to find me. Voltage, one word, won't be hard to find me either. If you want information in systems and processes and training and free goods and software and stuff, go to voltagedm.com. Voltagedm.com. That's digital marketing. There's a training As Seen on TV with myself and my friend Kevin Harrington where we go over our As Seen on TV strategy. Based on his experience and mine and building different businesses across different channels. We talk about how we do that. And then the book, grab that. There's a free copy, I believe, for this show for 10 people who go to the link below and use the code can get 10 free copies of the book. I believe the team handed that out to you. So we'll be able to put that in the show notes below here. And for the rest of you, there's a digital copy you can grab. It's a strategy guide for the actual effect of growing a company and understanding profit and loss, the business, the operations, 15 chapters from my podcast, specifically interviewing around the processes and methodologies we follow inside of Voltage for growing and scaling these companies. And then resources and other information in there as well. So if you're a reader or want more information, those are great ways to get some more details about what we do.
See, he's ending with a servant's heart, giving away all this free stuff. That's powerful. Name of the book, real quick.
Almost Automated Income on FBA.
And then
how to build a self-sustaining business that can generate 7 figures in profits with physical products.
And the podcast.
High Voltage Business Builders, which talks about e-com, business building, wealth without Wall Street, wealth creation, wealth preservation, building up systems of business. And obviously we talk about the exit as well, and the acquisitions of those companies.
Audience, reach out to his podcast, his book, free information. In the first 10 you reach out. you can make 7 figures yourself. I've had people do that, buy books and change their life completely. Not my book because I don't have a book, but this book could do that for you. Neil, thank you so much for being an incredible guest. Audience, you're into the end of the show, call to action. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, but not what do you think. I think podcast links are gifts. And if you're listening to this and listening to Neil going, oh my God, my friend needs some help or should hear this, take the link and send it to them and go, I've listened to Neil. I think you'd love them. And they listen 10, 15 minutes and it changes their life. Or they reach out to Neil or they become Neil's client, whatever that may be, you've changed their life. Guess what? It's a gift back to you because I believe in gift exchanges are the powerful thing. So use the podcast as a gift. Use Neil's the same way. If you got listen to Neil's podcast, one of those guests, and you think somebody could benefit, send it to them. I think more people need to do that. To subscribe to Neil's podcast as well. With that being said, me and Neil want to thank you all so much for watching or listening to this podcast. We'll see you all on the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a great day, everyone.